Hitman is produced and directed by Richard Linklater. Linklater co-writes the film with Glen Powell, who stars as a professor named Gary. Gary is working undercover for the police as a fake hitman. A chain reaction of trouble ignites when Gary falls for a potential client. This review will be spoiler-free. I was unimpressed by the marketing, however I felt compelled to check out the film due to Richard Linklater being the director. He has directed some of my favourite films in the Before trilogy, and other films that I really enjoyed like School of Rock and Dazed and Confused, so I was definitely curious. Plus, the word of mouth was actually quite strong on the film. The straight-to-Netflix release model seemed to lack confidence to me though. I don't normally bother with Netflix movies. They're like fake movies to me, if you know what I mean, like fast food. That can sometimes be just what you need, but there's usually something better to watch. This is a film that I imagine could be a fun date movie in the cinema. I'm always a champion of the theatre experience and would always much rather see a film there. I think this could have easily made $200 million at the box office, and on a budget under $9 million, you would think that that would be a smart choice, especially when the film stars Glen Powell fresh off of multiple hits and seeming to be Hollywood's next attempt at a traditional leading man. When I sat down and watched the first 10 to 15 minutes of Hitman, I was struggling to get into it. It has a very slow and underwhelming start. I quickly realized that this was certainly a streaming movie due to the lack of imaginative cinematography and just lack of general visual flair overall. If what I'm saying sounds dismissive of streaming movies, then it is. I am of the mind that streaming services should really just focus on TV shows mainly. The system of a proper theatrical release is one that was not broken, so it didn't need to be messed with. Apple has shown with films like Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon that more people will be drawn to your films once they're on streaming after a proper theatrical run, and it will of course make a ton more money in theaters. Putting a movie straight onto streaming loses the studio money, as well as devalues the film altogether. They are essentially killing their own business. I see streaming films as being the kinds of films that you'd find in a bargain bin like 15 to 20 years ago, ones that would go straight to home video or straight to television. Nobody ever bothered with those movies back then. Anyway, that tangent could go on, and I should probably save that for another video. That being said, I'm kind of not into negative rants, so we'll just pivot back to the film. The reason I brought that up at all is because this film sort of occupies a halfway point for me where it doesn't have the production value of a proper Hollywood picture, yet it has the talent, and that talent can't help but shine through. Yes, I mentioned that the lack of a gripping opening was a concern for me, but once the film found its footing about 20 minutes in, I found it very endearing. Glen Powell is an actor with so much charisma, and his chemistry with co-star Adria Arjona is electric. Now, I know Powell has been working for a while, but I have only become aware of him through recent films like Top Gun Maverick and Anyone But You. Whilst he is a talented actor that I enjoy watching, I find him to be at arm's length emotionally. This isn't to say that he couldn't impress me with a more vulnerable performance in the future. I am excited to see what roles he may take on that might challenge him more going forward. Still, I do feel that a great actor can bring layers to even the most basic of characters. Powell is given an opportunity to stretch here, with all the different disguises that he has to don. However, it's mainly played for laughs and kept at a surface level, which is fine at the end of the day when the purpose is to simply entertain, and I was very much entertained. The whole premise of the film is really fun, and the film is pretty sharply paced. The twists and turns in Act 3 are pretty well conceived from a writing standpoint. I think that there was a lot of potential for comedy in if they'd taken one or two of those disguises and kind of crafted a whole sequence around him in them, but it's mainly just kept to montage sequences and quick scenes. There were quite a few points where I was impressed by the way the characters would weave through situations, falling deeper into trouble with consistently elaborate lies. I found myself invested in the romance despite Adria Orjana's character being underdeveloped. I do wish there was more to her character outside of how she serves Glen Powell's story. It would have been nice to see the two leads connect on a more genuine level. Maybe I'm not supposed to like these characters, relate to them, or want to root for them. You could say I failed to figure that out as an audience member, and that's on me, but it truly feels as though the film never works that out itself either. Despite my enjoyment whilst watching, I do feel slightly disappointed at the lack of an overall message or consequence for the characters. I didn't like the way the ending left things, it didn't really resonate with me, and it just didn't feel authentic or well thought out. It's true that not every film has to be profound, but I feel there were many ways that you could have easily stuck the landing, but they went for a safe option that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in the end. Was there potentially a great film in here had it been given a bit more love? Well, with a tighter conclusion, a stronger overall message, and more imaginative cinematography, then I would say yes. With the good word of mouth and pairing of Linklater and Powell, I was ultimately compelled to check this film out, and I'm honestly glad that I did. I had a surprisingly good time watching it, and I would recommend it for like a lazy, casual, snacks-ridden movie night with a date or a friend.